Hello Mark, and welcome to the third episode of the Break Even podcast.
Thank you.
A big thank you for being our guest today. Just as a bit of an introduction, I'd just like to say you have Parkinson's and you've suffered with gambling-related harm.
Yeah, that's right.
So, Mark, could you just tell me a little bit more about your story, please?
Yeah, it's kind of crept up on me a little bit really. I'm 47 years old now. I was diagnosed with Parkinson's, young onset Parkinson's in 2019, so I guess I was 42, just had a child. I was a teacher, then a head teacher at a South Coast school, dealing with quite significant levels of deprivation, so the sort of challenges you face in an area like that, which I thoroughly loved. I never thought I'd be a head teacher.
Wow.
I had no ambition to be a head teacher, I enjoyed being a teacher. And then I started to notice little symptoms in my body, found my job very stressful and started struggling with my job and struggling under pressure, and was diagnosed with Parkinson's quite quickly.
So what came first, the Parkinson's or the gambling?
Probably the gambling, but not in an out of control way. I've sort of thought back over time, and when I was at school I used to run, in science lessons, I used to run sweepstakes.
Right.
I remember in year 11 I had about half the school went to the, I think it was Euro 92, prediction sweepstake or prediction of the season. They used to pay me money and I used to pay out the winner.
Right.
I've always been interested in maths, so gambling.
So what with maths and gambling, quite excited, different challenges?
I really enjoy it, to be honest. I'm not interested in going into the bookies, that's never been of interest to me. I'm interested in sort of finding odds that I think are good odds, or trying to find a way to crack the code.
So in the early stage, it was really about enjoying it,
yeah.
not suffering too much harm, just doing it in a really controlled way. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I got into match betting, which I really enjoyed, but has a relatively short life. I made about 14 grand out of that, which I was thoroughly pleased with.
Right.
But as I'm sure people know, that you get, it's called gubbed, isn't it, quite quickly, and they see what you're doing, and all of a sudden you're banned from about 50 websites, and you're left with a bit of a situation where you think, I enjoyed making that money, now what's the next step? And since my diagnosis of Parkinson's, and since I got ill health retirement, I started to explore that a little bit more.
Right.
And it started to go out of control in the last sort of 6 months or so, and quite significantly so.
Wow. When did you first start to notice your condition, Mark?
They say that you have Parkinson's about 5 to 10 years before you get diagnosed.
Right.
I noticed my wife was talking about it the other day, that when I was my daughter was born, I sat there in the hospital saying, my little finger's tremoring. And then I started to notice that I couldn't move my fingers properly, and then the tremor got quite significant. Then, think about it, the next thing I noticed was I couldn't get my thoughts out in difficult situations, under pressure situations. I couldn't organise things in my head.
Right.
So I went to see a doctor. The doctor diagnosed me with something called essential tremor and gave me beta blockers for it. She said, try this first. That didn't work. The situation got worse. It spread from my left hand to my right hand to my left hand. Then I got diagnosed pretty quickly. I went to see her in December 2018, and she got me immediately seen. She was pretty concerned about my sort of mental well-being and really struggling. So I was petrified as to what it might be.
Sure.
And I had what's called a DAT scan and an MRI scan within a month, which was pretty amazing at the NHS. And I got diagnosed with Parkinson's. Young onset Parkinson's. I like to use the word young onset Parkinson's.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the stereotypical perception of Parkinson's is that it affects older people. Can you tell me a bit about that?
It is. It amuses me what people say about Parkinson's, because they always say, oh, you're too young to have Parkinson's, and it's 1 in 20 people diagnosed with Parkinson's are below the age of 60.
Right.
And actually, the younger you get, the bigger the smaller that pool of people becomes. But when I was diagnosed, I asked you get a Parkinson's nurse allocated to you, and I said, okay, what's out there for younger people? And she said, nothing really.
Wow.
They tend to sort of lock themselves away and don't do anything about it. Well, not don't do anything about it, but there's nothing really in place. So we started a WhatsApp group in my hometown, a relatively small hometown, and within about 2 or 3 years we've now got about 20 to 30 members of it, which
That's
is quite
fantastic, isn't it? So because there was nothing out
Yeah.
there for you, you literally wanted to make sure there was some support
Yeah.
and got a few people to, you know, have peer support with.
Yeah, that's good, but it's quite scary that there's 20 to 30 people in a relatively small area. So it's something that's, I think it's much more prevalent than people think it is. Other stereotypical things are people think, they say, are you going to die from it? The answer is no, you don't, but it can lead to other things like dementia, which obviously has a different outcome. Is it about shaking? I do tremor. I tremor most of my right side, but on my left side. But only 30% of people have tremor.
Oh, right.
So there's over 40 different symptoms, and I describe mine as I have a small portion of everything. So, but nothing too bad. People talk about pain, and I've never really had pain.
You said you started that group locally, and obviously you're really surprised to find some members of the group early on. How did you go about doing that? How did you reach out? Where did you do that?
I said to my nurse, could you put me in contact with some people? I left her my phone number, and she passed it on to some people who were a bit in the same situation as me, and it just sort of grew and grew. And I'm not quite as involved as I'd like to be in that group now, because I've since moved away down to the south coast. But it's been a real success, but it's quite scary that there's so many people in such a small place.
Absolutely.
So it's a bigger thing than people imagine.
Yeah, and I think everybody listening, I mean, this is a real education for me, just listening to your answers. I just want to move on to talk about the gambling now.
Yeah.
I mean, my understanding is, and I've always been very aware of the drug that is sometimes given can lead to increased risk taking, which sometimes leads, we've seen a few clients over the years at break even come to that. But I've never actually had the opportunity to actually ask somebody, what do you actually feel is a link between Parkinson's and gambling?
I think there's 3 things. I'd love to sit here and say I got into this problem just because I had Parkinson's and the drugs, but I think there's something within me that's interested in gambling, and, you know, like I said before, with the maths. But it's since I've been diagnosed and since I've taken certain medications that it led to me getting out of control. I was told there's 3 standards of medication that you take. The nurse described it. The bronze standard doesn't do a lot, but doesn't have a lot of side effects. So I tried that and it didn't do much of either. The silver standard is called the agonists, and people tend to be quite nervous about taking them.
Were you nervous about taking them?
No, because I didn't think I'd be getting any problems with it. So I thought, I'll give this a try. There's different drugs that you can take, but I took a drug called Rapinarole. And as with the gold standard and the bronze standard medication, it comes with a warning about obsessive behaviours, which can manifest itself in several ways, like gambling being one of them, compulsive obsessive disorders.
And when you were made aware of what the side effects could be, was gambling mentioned there?
Yeah, it was, but I didn't think it would happen to me. They say that it affects 1 in 10 people, which in fact is quite a scary perception. A lot of the people I know avoided that drug. I wanted to avoid the gold standard drug, which is something that's well known called levodopa, which I'm on now, because that has a really positive effect. But
however, my guess is the higher the drug, the better the chance to manage your symptoms. Is that correct?
Yeah, but the cumulative effect of side effects
can make it.
That can lead to something called dyskinesia, which is I'm told is quite unpleasant.
So how did gambling actually progress, Mark? Once you
I just got really interested in it. I wanted to find an alternative to match betting. I was the classic person that thought, it's not going to happen to me. My doctor did check up on me every 6 months. The nurse checked up on me. They asked me the question, is gambling a problem? I said, no. I said to my wife it wasn't a problem. I actually didn't think...
So you kept it hidden?
But I didn't think it was a problem.
Oh, you genuinely didn't think it was a problem?
I thought I'm going to crack this eventually.
Right.
Like I guess lots of people do.
So you like chasing your winnings, chasing your losses all the time?
I was experimenting. I was doing lots of theories on Betfair.
Right.
And I would persist with certain...
So you were looking for the magic formula?
Yeah, I was looking for something like, as the example being, I saw the odds were 1,000 to 1 for over 8 goals in the game. Now I thought, to me, it must be less than 1,000 games before you get a 9-goal thriller or something like that. And I sort of chased that and I persist with it, and I had some other theories that I persisted with, and to be honest, I wasn't very good at it and none of them worked. But then it just kind of grew and grew, and I noticed I was spending more and more money, and I wasn't really doing reckless gambling, but I was just trying this, trying that, persisting with it, thinking I've got to keep trying it, so I'm going to get one in a minute, I'm going to crack this, and before I know it, significant money was coming out of the bank.
The one thing you've told me during this interview is that you were very aware and you're very good with maths and numbers. Yeah. I'm wondering if it was a classic problem gambling sign whereby you maybe chose not to add up what you were spending, both time-wise and both financially. Or was
I ended up at the start, then I stopped.
Yeah,
I didn't want to look.
That was my suspicion.
Yeah, I didn't want to look, and when it all culminated, I added it up again because I wanted to come clean to my family about how much I'd lost, and
is that quite scary when you realised?
It was really scary because I had a lot to lose more than the money.
Not just the money, yes, the family, everyone around you.
Yeah, absolutely, and I was just trying. I never thought of it as gambling. I just thought I'm just trying to find ways, because obviously ill health retirement meant I can't work.
So it was a bit of a hobby, somewhere to get some extra money.
I need a bit of a buzz,
a bit of a buzz.
I've had a bit of counselling since, and one of the things that's come out is that I'm not maybe an outwardly risk-taking character, but inwardly I am, and I need that sort of buzz to sort of something to. I've got a very active mind. I'm always working out things, trying to work out the secret to certain things, and
I've always been very inquisitive.
But it got out of control, and I didn't admit it to myself for ages.
So what was it that did make you reach out for help at the end?
I was encouraged by my wife that I was showing some of the other symptoms of the effects of ropinirole. She asked me several times about gambling. I said, no, it's all fine.
So how did you keep it hidden? Because you're doing it online and no one could see?
I had a separate current account that she knew about, but as I set it up, I only had access to it, and I was moving chunks of money into there, and I just started to be honest, started running out of money, and I started to think, I've got to crack this now, my time's got to come, and it never did come. And then I came off ropinirole, and then everything went crazy. Like I couldn't sleep. I could only describe it as being like a drug addict.
So you came off ropinirole was that to assist with what was happening with your gambling and your
with the other symptoms, which I won't go too much into.
Sure.
But we decided it was good for me to come off ropinirole. Again, I hadn't really admitted to myself that gambling was the problem, but it was actually the biggest problem. And when I came off ropinirole, I couldn't sleep. The medication that was taken instead wasn't quite right, and I was having anxiety attacks, and I was all over the place. I was really, really low, kept bursting into tears, and then I suddenly sat at the kitchen table one day and thought, I've got to tell my wife about the gambling. I hadn't really even thought about the gambling, but I just suddenly thought, right, I've got to get this off my chest.
That must have been a really difficult moment for you, Mark.
It was. Yeah, I wouldn't want to go through that again, and I wouldn't want to put my family through that again.
And it's great you're getting help and support now, and I'm really pleased that you've managed to find break even. Yeah. So what role has break even played in the recovery, Mark?
The support was instant. I have to say the support was instant from all areas. The NHS. I was having counselling from the local authority, but like that, break even instantly responded. I spoke to Dan, who was my counsellor, and I think we just hit it off really well. And I found myself answering my own questions in his sessions, and which I guess is a good sign really with counselling, isn't it? I found myself looking at a bigger picture than perhaps I would have done than gambling. Gambling being part of this sort of situation, but actually knitting it all together.
So it helped you to look at everything that was going on around you, your gambling, your Parkinson's, and everything even wider than that.
And I think one of the things that we discovered was the gambling was a great way to distract me from the realities of what I was facing with my health. I got a buzz from it. And I remember him saying to me that it's when you do give up gambling, that there's a void, and people find that very difficult. And that was the most difficult time
because that's what was helping you survive.
I got a buzz.
It was part of who you were.
I used to get a buzz from going to work and dealing with difficult situations, and that had gone as well.
What sort of safeguards were there in place, Mark, around the warning signs or what you could do or couldn't do once you realised what was going on?
There were definitely, I can't sit here and say people didn't ask the question. They did. My consultant, I've got an amazing consultant. He always checked up on me. He said, is gambling a problem? And I said no. He checked up on me every 6 months. But what I've noticed about Parkinson's is different people in different parts of the country have different experiences. So I'm lucky I get to see my consultant every 6 months. Other areas they see a nurse every 6 months to 12 months. Some people don't see anybody.
Wow.
It just depends on, it's a bit of a postcode lottery. And
so you consider yourself one of the fortunate ones,
yeah,
with the treatment you got,
yeah.
but some of the people you know through the network
yeah,
haven't been as fortunate as you.
But even saying that, I still slip through the net, and obviously I've got to take responsibility for that.
Yeah.
But like for me, it would help if there was sort of leaflets. You know, it says on the boxes of medication, but it also says about 55 other things that, you know, you think, oh, they're just telling you everything that could happen, just in case it does. He told me about some of the things that other people do, like obsessive shopping.
That's really interesting, Mark, because one of the things we're really big on at Break Even and within the whole of the National Gambling Sport Network is lived experience.
Yeah.
So one thing that's really, really interesting listening to things that can be done from somebody who's lived, got the lived experience, and hopefully people will take note of that.
Yeah, and I think to make it even better, I think it would be beneficial if partners and family members could be informed about what the dangers are and what they might look like in people's behaviour. I think that would definitely be something, because, you know, if I'm hiding something, somebody else needs to spot it, don't they? I also think banks, you know, I was amazed when I looked back at my bank account that no one actually said, hold on a minute, look at this bank account, there's money going out, money going out, money going out. Why aren't they asking a question? Perhaps you could register your situation at the betting companies. I found Betfair, which is who I lost most of my money with, never asked any questions, irrespective of not knowing what my condition was. Sporting Index, who I also lost money through, they did ask questions, they kept checking up, but they were only checking up with me. So, you know, there's got to be a way to improve that.
Yeah, and I know there's a lot of work being done behind the scenes to improve accountability from all the operators. There's a new white paper that is in Parliament now. When it's going to all be signed off, who knows? But the one thing for sure, there's a lot of work being done where the operators will be having things in force whereby they're looking after, especially the vulnerable, better than what they're doing now.
Yeah, but it doesn't strike me as rocket science. Like I helped my mum buy a car a couple of weeks ago. She went to pay the money from her bank account. The bank wouldn't let her pay for it until she had satisfied them with X, Y, and Z, which obviously she could do. But
I mean, what you're touching on, Mark, is so right. I mean, gambling is still one of the only things in the world where you don't get means checked.
Yeah.
You can open up an account like you did with Betfair and whoever else you did, and you can lose as much as you haven't even stolen yet or borrowed yet or got hold of yet. But if you apply for a credit card, you get means checked and until you can only spend so much.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So hopefully there are things that are really going to change there. Mark, it's been fascinating listening to you. How are you doing now?
I'm doing much better actually. The medication, I've got the medication settled now. I'm currently on at the moment, which means I'm good. When I'm off, I'm completely different. So, but my on periods are much more.
How do you recognise that when you're on and when you're off?
I can't walk.
Right.
I can't move my fingers.
So real physical signs.
Yeah, I struggle to my head. You can see in my face changes. I can't swing my arms. I basically turn into someone who looks 40 years older than I am. When I'm looking out, hopefully I look my age and
younger.
Yeah, hopefully act quite normally.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I'm basically like a robot. I have to take my pills to make me good. When I don't take my pills, or the pills run out. And
they're quite instant, work quite quickly.
I take them every 4 hours,
right.
And it takes an hour for them to kick in. So,
I really want to applaud how well you're managing your condition.
Thank you.
It's really, enlightening to hear how you've just dealt with it. You're not feeling sorry for yourself. You're meeting all the challenges.
Thank you.
Last thing I'd like to ask you is, thinking away from Parkinson's, have you any other observations to help people who are suffering gambling harm, or any things we're missing?
The banking situation, the banking situation is an obvious one. That's an easy win. That is. I've noticed how much I'm not interested in gambling now. I put all the safeguards in, you know, the blocks and everything, and I'm confident I won't do it. I realise that could be naive speaking, but I'm in a good place. But it struck me, it's everywhere. I'm still getting texts, I'm still getting emails, even though I've blocked the sites. It's on, listening to the Euros football, it's every advert, it's on every advert on the radio. For someone who's finding it really hard not to do it, or perhaps me, if I start to relapse, you can't get away from it.
And again, I'm not going to sound like a broken record, but I'm really hoping within time, especially with the new laws and new white paper that's being discussed in Parliament, that a lot of these things get addressed, especially people that are self-excluded, that still get emails which they shouldn't get, they shouldn't be on that database, and also all the other tools where people get means checked. Hopefully that will help protect people to not get in the situations that you've got in over the years.
And the other thing is that amused me is the way we use it in language. Like if I'm just going to gamble and do this, or you know, and without even meaning money gambling, it's in our language as well.
And the adverts, as you say, are rife, aren't they? Just so many adverts. Hopefully what we're seeing now is a few more responsible gambling adverts. Hopefully we're pointing to the help, etc. that people can have. I just want to finish up again, Mark, saying thank you very much for taking the time out, for helping inform people out there to the condition, what it can lead to, and hopefully they can all take a leaf out of your book and be really brave and fight it.
I hope so.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Cheers.
If you or someone you know is affected by gambling related harm, please contact us on 01273 833 722 or visit our website www.breakeven.org.uk. Alternatively, please call the National Gambling Support Helpline on 0808 8020 133. Please make sure you like and subscribe to all our social media channels and keep this message out there. Thank you.